This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine. I won't let anybody blow it out. No, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, I won't let anybody blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine. I won't let anybody blow it out. Oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, yeah.
Because there will be spoilers. So if for some reason you haven't seen the movie Star Wars: The Force Awakens,
First of all, what's wrong with you? And
took the words right out of my mouth.
But I thought you were going to then continue on.
No. First, I was going to mock our listeners, and then I was going to warn them. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, at least we're on the same page here. I like
This is why we're good team.
Hello, and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're glad to have you with us. You, of course, were just listening to our good buddy David Wimbush and his band, The Collection. You can listen to David and all of our musicians at our website. That's moonshinejesus.podbean.com. Everyone, please welcome my buddy, David. How are you, David?
I am fantastic. It is a new year.
Yes, it is.
And I am happy to actually be ringing in the new year a few weeks late with you on the Moonshine Jesus Show, as we promised everyone.
Absolutely.
But it's really exciting to be back because we have a great show today.
Yes. A new year and a new era in Star Wars.
I think it's going to be a great era too.
It really is already looking that way, isn't it?
Yeah, and so it's early in the morning, so I'm drinking coffee, so I'm completely amped. And I know Mark is too.
Yes. Cheers.
But I think the first thing we got to say is there will be spoilers here. So if for some reason you haven't seen the movie Star Wars,
First of all, what's wrong with you? And then
took the words right out of my mouth.
But I thought you were going to then continue on with the warning.
No. First, I was going to mock our listeners, and then I was going to warn them.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, at least we're on the same page here. I like this.
This is why we're good team.
Yes, but as David was saying, this will be almost nothing but spoilers.
That's right. Right. We're gonna spoil every bit of this movie.
Really will. We always try to only do a little bit of spoilers because it's difficult to listen to a show when there's spoilers and you haven't seen them. But we warned everybody last show that this was going to happen.
And I feel like we've done our due diligence. We've stretched it out an extra week or so to give people extra time to see it. So I feel like it's fair game at this point, right?
Exactly. Oh, I completely agree. So we need to go all in on this one, man.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing we have to address is all the hate that J.J. Abrams in Star Wars: The Force Awakens is getting, because I completely disagree with it. And here's my thing.
Yeah.
I went into that movie so thrilled and so excited, and I came out reminded of what it was like as a child watching these films and falling in love with them. And the greatest part was taking my kids to see it, and then as the final credits rolled, my youngest looked up at me and goes, "Daddy, what happens next?" And I looked at him and I said, "I don't know." And it was like the greatest moment.
But you see, that's the best because Star Wars was based on the Flash Gordon serials. Matter of fact, Episode 4. One of the things that George Lucas likes to say is that it was always planned that it was going to be 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3. That's actually not true. Like they named it Episode 4 just so it would feel like it's a serial that's already continuing. And so it's
That's
so
right.
great. It's so great that he said, "What happens next?" Because that's exactly what a serial's supposed to do.
And like all the unanswered questions that we have in that is classic serial kind of material.
Exactly.
I mean, like if you're listening to the podcast serial, like you don't go, she didn't answer all the questions, so it must be terrible. You go, there are so many more questions. I can't wait to see what happens.
That's
next.
exactly
Like that's the point of it.
That's the whole point, exactly. And one of the things that people are going after a little bit on Star Wars is that they say the storyline isn't complex enough and that kind of thing. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be fantasy, good storytelling that gets you involved in the character, not the storyline. The storyline's important, it matters, but it is a vehicle for getting you connected to the characters.
Yeah, you're supposed to be connected to the characters, but I mean, I also want to remind folks that episode 4 and 5 and 6, like they weren't complicated storylines.
No, they weren't. That's the beauty of it.
And I think the problem is that I love how, especially in A New Hope, there were all these things that were completely unexplained backstory, like Clone Wars. Like Obi-Wan throws out Clone Wars, right?
It's just all of a sudden there, right?
Right. And I think the worst thing that ever happened was fleshing all that stuff out in such such minute detail, because it lacks the space for the imagination. I mean, honestly, that's one of the reasons why the parables and the Gospels are so great, is because they are kind of sparse, and you have all this room for imagination and thinking and filling in the blanks.
And in both of those, it allows this larger universe to be present there that doesn't have to be talked about, and it feels more real. Like, I wouldn't come up to you and start talking about something and say, and then on the Civil War, oh, by the way, the Civil War, what happened there was, because, it doesn't, so it feels more real that it's just mentioned and it's allowed to exist. It makes the universe expansive and big, and I mean, it's part of the epic feel that Star Wars has already had, always had, and has again. And that was probably my favorite part, was at the end of it, like you said, I finally felt like I had been back to that very first experience of episode 4, A New Hope. I left just in wonderment and feeling like I'd just been through this epic journey, this imaginary, beautiful thing. It wasn't now, it wasn't in the past, it was just in this unknown space. It was beautiful, man, just beautiful.
Okay, so I feel like I can't decide if I want to hit my favorite notes first, or if we want to go chronological order, or if we just want to like go all over the place. But by far, one of my favorite moments, and this has to do with my childhood, and this is one of the reasons why I love the film.
Yeah.
Is I remember as like a 4-year-old having like the big Millennium Falcon toy.
Yes.
And it was as big as I was, right?
Right.
And so when they're in Jakku, and they're passing by the big hunk of junk, and it winds up being the Millennium Falcon, and they fly it, right?
Right.
It was this same moment, that feeling that you get when you introduce your kids to all of your favorite Star Wars toys. Yeah. And like you kind of bequeath like all these great, wonderful things that meant so much to you, and the kids get to play with them. And then for a moment you enter into that world. It very much felt that way, this kind of handing off of this, of the toys in a way.
That's sort of beautiful, because it's almost like that moment is a small representation of the whole movie, because that's what the movie was too.
Right.
It was a handing off of this childhood thing to my kids. Now they've watched all the other ones, but this was the first experience of getting to do it in a theater, and
absolutely.
And so it's sort of the same feeling, which I thought, that was amazing.
And to draw a religious connection,
yeah,
this is exactly what we do every Easter Vigil, is we retell all these great and amazing stories, and we try to do it in new ways, and we try to do it in ways that appeal to people, or we try to spice up some things every now and then. But essentially, we're retelling these same core stories, and we're passing them on to people each and every year. And so, like, there's this beautiful idea of it's good to pass on these stories. Like, that's not a bad thing, and that's why people who criticize the how similar some of the stories are, I don't mind that, because it is the core of these stories, and it's the core of the stories that have meant so much to so many of us.
Yeah.
And I draw a direct parallel to what we do in the Easter Vigil or in the lectionary cycle.
That's fair. I think that's completely fair. Well, probably my favorite moment, and it may actually be part of why I love this movie, is early on when Finn and Rey meet, and all of a sudden the TIE fighters start coming in. They're running out. There's a big explosion. They both go flying forward. Finn is on his back out, and Rey crawls over to him and tells him he has to wake up. And his first words to her are you okay? Like in the like he's out, she's up fine, and he's like, are you okay? Kind of in the classic, the man has to be the hero. And she gets this quizzical look on her face, and she just kind of like, are you stupid? Goes, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so perfect, because that was the moment that JJ told us that these standard roles aren't going to I'm not accepting them anymore.
Right.
Because she just looked at him like he was a fool. Like, you are laying flat on your back and I'm helping you. Yeah, I'm okay.
Well, this theme of Rey being just the ultimate amazing person, this
Right.
This,
Oh, yeah.
this is it kind of runs through it and subverting those stereotypes and expectations. The moment where the lightsaber battle between she and Kylo Ren towards the end, where she force pulls the lightsaber into her hand, crossing in front of Kylo Ren. That's a killer moment, because it reminds me, and there's all the fan chatter about this, of the moment of the sword and the stone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who pulls the sword out of the stone.
Right.
So, like, there's this great moment where you see, like, holy crap. And she's both confident and surprised all at the same time.
Right, but that's, I think what JJ has done, I mean, basically we've got the same setup from 4, in that you have this person from a desert planet,
right,
who's just figuring out about the Force, and then you've got this person wearing a mask who's somewhat in control of the Force, and you have that moment of them together. And this is what I think he's done that's brilliant, except in this one, she's a better Luke Skywalker than Luke Skywalker was.
Well, she's not whiny.
She's not whiny, and she believes in herself, and she's confident. Even when she's worried and scared and not sure if she can do it, she's still somehow confident about it, or determined might be the better word. And he was never determined. He had to be pushed, constantly pushed into being determined.
I think confident is a great word, because Luke spends half of Episode 4, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, A New Hope, whining and complaining about everything.
Yeah.
And Rey, she never complains about anything. She
survives. She's the opposite. Going back to when she and Finn are running away from everything, Finn keeps grabbing her hand and pulling her. She's like, stop it, let go of my hand. I can run better if you're not holding my hand. I'm like, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think probably my favorite beat for Rey's character is towards the end, where she's about to be kind of pushed off the cliff, and Kylo Ren is trying to convert her to the dark side, and he's like, you don't know the power of the Force. And it's like Rey, like, oh yeah, the Force, I can use the Force.
Right, and you see her close her eyes.
Spin.
She closes her eye because what's the character that they went to visit with the big glasses?
Maz Kanata.
Maz, yeah. Because Maz had told her earlier, just close your eyes and connect with the Force. It runs through us and it surrounds us. And then it was like this moment that she remembered. She closed her eyes, and you could just see it when she opened her eyes. It was like, uh-oh, he is in trouble.
Now the question is, of course, and this is maybe something troubling. Maybe we'll talk about it after the break. Is everybody wants to know who Rey's dad is?
Interesting, right?
And so, if you're talking about an empowered woman who comes into her own without anybody's help, does it matter?
Exactly.
Dad is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I mean, from a storytelling point of view,
sure,
it matters, because what a lot of folks don't really like think about on the forefront enough is that this is not a space saga. This is not a fantasy. This is a story about family.
Right.
From episode 1 to this episode, this is a story about family. So it does matter. It does matter from a storytelling point of view. From a character point of view, I'm with you like 100%. From a character point of view, it doesn't matter. She is her own person. It's what makes her such a brilliant character on screen. And I think part of why we all got sucked in. And here's the thing. I don't know that there has ever been a blockbuster, record-breaking movie where there was a female lead in the movie, that was what carried the movie. particularly a strong female lead, and I love that that's been created.
Absolutely. So I guess that's the question: is who does Rey belong to? And I guess I would push back, say she belongs to herself. And I think it would be great if in the next episode she finds out who her parents are or whatever, and instead of having this emotional moment, be like, "Well, I'm still Rey," and like refuses to take the name.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting. I tell you what, let's wrap it up here, drop some tunes, and we'll come back on the other side for a little more discussion.
Moonshine Jesus, nobody in the sky. Moonshine Jesus, baby, don't ride. Moonshine Jesus, a surprise and delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Hello, and welcome back to round 2 of the Moonshine Jesus Show. For this round, we're going to talk about the President's State of the Union address. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep talking about Star Wars.
You threw me too. I was like, I didn't watch it. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, Mark was.
I was watching Star Wars again.
Yeah, he was watching Star Wars again instead of the State of the Union.
Yeah, I went to see it in IMAX 3D last night. I figured if we're going to talk about it, I'm going to go big.
Get the full experience, right?
And I got to say, hey, one of the things about the watching it for a second time through, first of all, I did not pick up on how funny some of the characters really were the first time through. I think because I was so absorbed by the storyline and everything like that. So, for instance,
I was gut laughing the first time I saw it.
Oh, I laughed a lot, but there's some of the
so much so that people looked at me funny. Like, why are you laughing?
I laughed a lot, but some of it was so subtle that I guess I missed it. One of the new characters, Finn, was much funnier the second time through than I thought it was. Like when he's confronting Captain Phasma. Yeah, and he's like, "I'm in charge now," and and Han's like, "Bring it down a notch, son. Bring it down." But I think the funniest. We've talked about the new characters. I think the funniest character was actually Chewbacca.
Really?
He was hysterical. Like,
okay, you're gonna have to unpack that a little bit.
Like one of like another right. Like
when he gets injured and he gets really pissed off.
Well, that's pretty funny. But like, there's a couple of ones that come immediately to mind, and I'm not going to remember the exact line. But someone's talking to Han, and Han says something like, "Yeah, I'm kind of famous," and Chewie's like, like, I don't know about that.
And when he was in the conflict and he was trying to explain his way out of it, and they were like, "No, you did X, Y, Z," and Chewie was kind of like, "Well, yeah,
that's what happened. Yeah, that's kind of happened." And then when Chewie gets injured and he's with the nurse, and the nurse is like, "Well, that sounds scary," and Chewie's like, "Huh?" And then she's like, "You must be very brave," and Chewie's like, it was hysterical. It was I didn't catch how funny it was the first time through.
And so, we're going to do the big spoiler right now. Mike, I haven't been able to go back to see the movie again.
Yeah.
Because my kids refuse to see it because they don't want to see Han die again.
Yeah.
That was super traumatic for them. So leading into the movie, there was a big push on Kylo Ren masks and lightsabers, and that was a big part of the scary guy kind of costume. We're obsessed with villains in our culture,
right?
All that. And so my kids were interested in the Kylo Ren mask and all those kinds of things when we'd walk the toy aisle. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's wait till we see the movie because we may change our mind afterwards. And I'm really glad I did.
No kidding.
Because we walked out of that movie, and one of my sons looked up at me and said, "Daddy, I don't want any Kylo Ren stuff." Like they were done with Kylo Ren.
That's
and I'm going,
I did it.
You created a great villain. I mean, a great villain is created here because of what happens there.
Right.
From now on, it's not just that he's evil or powerful or anything. It's that he's hated.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think that's going to change.
You think so?
Yeah, because listen, JJ's done this really interesting thing where he doesn't give all of the original characters' traits to just one person. He seems to be breaking them up and switching them around. And what Kylo, in a lot of ways, is Luke, in that he's struggling with the light and the dark.
Right.
Luke starts out light, is challenged to go dark, ultimately comes back light. I think what we're going to see with Kylo is that he started out light mostly from the backstory that we get about. It's very clear that Luke trained him and that he was the one that turned against Luke, and he himself, is talking to his grandfather Darth, saying, the light is attracting me, and I'm trying to. So in that moment, the Han Solo moment where he kills him, he actually holds that lightsaber out in a way that we've seen already in the movie, where another person's handing the lightsaber over. And if you look at his face, it had softened. It was like he was going to do it. But that happened to be the exact moment where the light of the sun that they were feeding off of peters out. And they make a point of cutting to the sun going dark. And the moment he goes dark, his face changes ever so slightly. And then all of a sudden, lightsaber comes on and Han's gone. I think that was the hint that he's still struggling with this light and dark. He was about ready to go the other way when he said that I was going to do something. And then you had that subtle light to dark move, as if to say he's moving from light to dark in this moment. But he was there.
You're such a more optimistic person than I am. See, I think he's going to be a scary, dark villain.
Let me ask you this.
In the next movie. He may change by the third movie.
That's what I say. He's going to change. I mean, what happened to Darth? What happened to Darth?
I think next movie we're going to see an exceptionally dark person, because, and here's my argument for that, is that he is someone who's not seduced by the dark side. He's seduced by the light side, and he's on a mission to eviscerate the light in himself. And that's something we've not seen in a character in Star Wars yet, as like a main character. So we've seen Anakin, who's seduced by the dark side and struggles and it goes dark to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Kylo goes dark because he wants to do the wrong thing. And that's a scary, compelling.
I think that's interesting. One of the things that I was reminded of the second time through is that.
See, there you go, bringing up the fact that you can see the movie twice.
You're welcome. It's what I mentioned in the first episode that we talked about Star Wars, is that I don't think this is a story of good versus evil. This is a story of hope versus fear. And you see that in that Rey is hopeful about everything. She's hopeful that her family will come back.
Sure.
She's hopeful ultimately that she can help them with moving forward and getting BB there. She's very hopeful, even in fighting against Kylo. She's very hopeful. And when she's sitting in the chair and Kylo is trying to do the brain tricks to read her mind, she ends up reaching back into his mind and says, "You're afraid."
Right.
And those were the moments where I went, yeah, this is still a story of hope and fear. I wonder if his seduction to the dark side is just that he's afraid that without the dark side, he can't be what his lineage was.
That he's seeking after it, so that he's
seeking after to live into the greatness of his lineage, and that the fear that he won't is driving him to the dark side. And it goes back to kind of the Yoda stuff, the Yoda quotes about fear and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so we're winding up into our last little bit here in this episode. So I think, was there anything that you were disappointed about in the film? Were there moments? I mean, I think there are legitimate criticisms out there. I was a little disappointed that we had another big ginormous weapon, but I've changed.
Yes.
I've changed because I think about our own militarism in this world, and that's what we do as empires. We build bigger, more destructive weapons constantly.
Absolutely.
So it seems absurd to us, and maybe that should be something that should tip us off that what we do is absurd when we build bigger and more deadly kind of weapons.
Yeah.
Because when you see it metaphoricalized on film, you go, "That's absurd. Why would you do that?"
Right. I think that was really helpful, actually. No, I'm going to be honest. I'm completely fanboy about this. I loved everything. I'll admit, I was just full on fanboy. I loved everything about it. I love the music. I love the second time through, I began to appreciate even more the cinematography.
Yeah.
I think the first time I was focused on the special effects and the real effects that they used. I love the characters. Each and every one of them I thought were beautifully portrayed.
We haven't even talked about Poe. I mean,
Poe, my gosh. Yeah. There's so much we could be talking about, right? Poe is the new Han in many ways.
in many ways, but he's also kind of different than Han.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's cool
because he's like super loyal. You've got the Finn who wants to run away, but then you've got Poe who's dedicated like Luke was. So you're right in this mixing and matching of.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I think that's another one of those great examples of where JJ has kind of split some personalities in half and given them to different characters. But.
And what this film and this will be my last thing. What this film reinvigorates is the fundamental camaraderie that the original series had between a core set of characters. Yeah. I sense camaraderie between these characters that I'd never sensed in the prequels.
I completely agree, and I think that points to maybe the last thing that we can say and wrap up on that's true throughout all of this. The folks who are practicing hope do it in community. The folks who are living in fear tend to do it in singular parts.
That's perfect. That's a beautiful place to leave it. I think that's a profound thing to think about. So let's drop some music and we'll come back and we'll reach back into Christmas time, a galaxy a long time ago and a galaxy far, far away for our hashtag game.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Won't you shine a light?
Hello and welcome back to round 3 of the Moonshine Jesus Show. So David, look, the hashtag game from our last episode, Star Wars Christmas Carols, was absolutely hysterical.
Well, you know, if
I'm
you
not
were
sure if there was a bad one.
No. And so seriously, everybody should just go search the hashtag Star Wars Christmas Carols because we're not going to be able to get to all of our favorites because they were all of our favorites.
That's right.
But if you just scroll through it, I mean, there were tons of them, and they were so great and so funny. Lisa Deem at Lisa K Deem, come, they told me, ton.
That was fun. That was the first one I was going to use too. I tell you what, how about this? At the James Ford, FwdRad.io, we 3 scruffy nerf herders.
And Blakemore at S Blakemore 72. The Herald.
Troy Mead, CTMDP at CTMDPT. Deck the net with tons of spoilers. Fa la 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 la.
Oh man! I mean, they just go on and on.
I loved one of yours, man.
Oh yeah.
Silent Night, Carbonite.
This one made me actually laugh out loud. Carl Stowicki.
Oh, that was my next one too.
I saw mommy kissing her brother.
How about this one from Katie Rose, which is Katie Bug Rose. God rest ye merry rebel scum, let nothing you dismay. Remember Luke our Savior left Tatooine this day.
Oh man. Let's see. There was the first prequel by Topher Melhoff.
Also from the same Katie Rose, good tidings of yub yub and joy, yub yub and joy. Good tidings of yub yub and joy.
And there, all I want for Christmas, the 12 Droids of Christmas by Jeff. Gotta get one.
There were just so many. It's almost impossible.
I'm going to toot my own horn. Oh, actually, let's do Anna Mary and Howell, Anna the Acolyte. The first Noel.
It's so funny. You keep that was the next one I was doing. It was amazing.
Right. The one I'm most proud of my own was Come They Told Me Pa-ra-ba-bum bum bum bum. It's the Imperial Drummer Boy.
I like Jeff Feet, sideline theologue, said, "You're a mean one, Mr. Darth."
Well, that could easily be Kylo now.
Yeah, it could.
They go on, and they are all hilarious. One of them was, "What droid is this?" I can't even remember who did that one, but it was perfect. What droid is this? Anyway, they're great. So I think I mean, we can't do Star Wars Christmas carols again, although
No.
that would be
That
really
would be
great.
a lot of fun, but it would kind of be overkill, maybe.
But I do think that since we talked about Star Wars, there's plenty more that we could do with Star Wars, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So one of our favorite movies from the past year was Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh,
which was
so
also
good.
a space
Yeah.
opera saga thing,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And they had a completely different kind of music in that movie.
That's right. Instead of this John Williams, which is great, they had
Amazing.
pop songs.
Right. So what if we did our pop song soundtrack for Star Wars?
Oh, I think that's a great idea.
So what
you
would the
could have,
hashtag be?
Star Wars pop soundtrack.
Works for me. Star Wars pop soundtrack. So
Okay.
you would give what the name of the song and the scene you'd put it with?
Yeah, so like you would do Death Cabs for Cutie, I'll Follow You into the Dark when Kylo Ren is gazing lovingly into Darth Vader's charred remains of his mask.
How about you drop the bomb on me for when the giant destroyer blows up? You drop the bomb on me, baby. Drop the bomb on me.
You do Bulls on Parade when Rey's trying to be seduced by the dark side.
Right?
I
I think there's immense possibilities here. We should probably just leave it up to folks to play with that and have
one
a good
more.
time.
Of course, you could always do Cat's Cradle by Harry Chapin when Kylo Ren
they're-
kills Han Solo.
Oh, that sort of makes
That's in the cradle and
that makes my
silver.
heart break just a little bit.
When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when.
We'll get together then. Son.
All right, so those could be a lot of fun. So we've got you started, and we can't wait to hear what all you guys come
Absolutely.
up with. It's so much
And
fun.
you've heard me singing far too much, so let's have someone who can actually sing, close things out.
And we should say it doesn't have to be The Force Awakens. You can pick any of
Absolutely.
the Star Wars movies.
Absolutely. So here we go. Real music to end this all with. Someone who can actually sing a little Freddie Fry.
Moonshine and Jesus, there's gold in them hills. Keep 'em all happy, cure all their ills. Moonshine and Jesus, grapes on the vine. Moonshine and Jesus, make 'em feel fine. 24 hours, 8 days a week. Whiskey and praying make us so weak. Get up each morning, head out the door. Work till you're weary, can't work no more. Years later, you sit and you think. Thank God they gave me this time just to drink. Moonshine and Jesus, you know it's all wrong. They make it so easy to just tag along. The prayers go to heaven, your liver to hell. Your mind can't believe that they planned this so well. Moonshine and Jesus, yes, that is the way. They get us to give up our souls every day. Yeah!